Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking the architecture of a deeper mind. We're taking a really close look at some incredibly impactful source material that breaks down the psychological framework of a very specific type of thinker. We're going to deconstruct the traits, the habits, and ultimately the massive paradigm shift that defines how this kind of mind actually operates. If you're someone who likes to get straight to the core of how things work, well, you're going to find this breakdown absolutely fascinating. And honestly, probably pretty validating.
The source material opens with a premise that I think is going to resonate with a lot of you. If you've ever felt different, it hits right at that lingering, sometimes alienating sense of just being slightly out of step with everyone else. You know that feeling, right? Like you're in a room doing the exact same thing as everyone else, but somehow it feels like your brain is processing on a completely different frequency. You're not just observing the room, you're actively dissecting it. So, we're going to explore exactly what's happening in your brain when you feel that disconnect.
So let's jump straight into part 1, the architecture. Right out of the gate, the first crucial trait is that you remember conversations word for word. For most people, a conversation is just remembered as a summary. They remember the general vibe, the topic, maybe how they felt. But for the deeper mind, the architecture actually includes a high-fidelity recording system. You hold on to the exact phrasing, the specific vocabulary, the precise sequence of sentences, which, let's be real, is an absolute superpower, right up until you're lying awake at 2 a.m. replaying an awkward interaction from 5 years ago. But honestly, it's not just about having a good memory. It's about how your brain categorizes social data. It treats verbal communication as highly significant. And while that can definitely feel overwhelming sometimes, it's really just a sign of a highly active, super detail-oriented cognitive processor.
And that brings us to the next trait from the source, metacognition, which is simply the act of thinking about thinking. You aren't just having thoughts, you're actively observing yourself having those thoughts. It's kind of like having a control room in your head where a secondary version of you is constantly analyzing why you just reacted a certain way, or tracing the origin of an emotion, or questioning the logic behind a sudden idea. It's just a continuous, running background process. This level of self-awareness is a classic hallmark of a complex internal architecture. Your mind isn't just a machine that reacts to the world, it's a machine that actually studies its own reactions.
Because of that background processing, we see these next 2 steps. Step 1, you look at chaos or seemingly random information, and you immediately see hidden patterns nobody else does. You see the underlying framework. Then, step 2, you make unexpected connections in weird ways. The source specifically uses the word weird here, and that's essentially the definition of lateral thinking. Imagine someone's explaining a problem at work and suddenly you connect it to, say, a documentary you watched about deep sea biology because the structural dynamics are literally exactly the same. To an outside observer, that connection seems totally bizarre, but to your highly analytical architecture, the logical bridge is perfectly clear.
This leads to a really vital contrast, the difference between a surface friendship and a deep connection. You see, you fundamentally need profound depth. Surface friendships, the small talk, chatting about the weather, superficial networking, they don't just bore you, they literally drain your battery. They feel tedious because they aren't utilizing any of that complex mental architecture we just talked about. Your brain is built for deep dives and metacognition. So here's a massive tip for managing your social energy. Give yourself permission to limit your exposure to shallow interactions. Actually bow out of the small talk when you can and intentionally schedule time for deeper, one-on-one connections where the masks come off and real ideas get debated. According to the source material, this isn't just a preference, it is a structural necessity for your well-being.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Part 2, the paradigm shift. I want you to really stop and challenge that lifelong self-doubt with one question. What if these aren't flaws? Up until now, society has probably told you that remembering things too intensely means you're holding a grudge, or that overthinking is just anxiety, or that hating small talk makes you antisocial. It is so easy to internalize those critiques and label your own traits as defects. You catch yourself thinking, why can't I just be easygoing? Why does everything have to be so deep with me? Well, we need to hit the brakes on that right now. What if the very things causing friction between you and the world aren't bugs in your system, but highly specialized features? Instead of seeing your cognitive style as a burden, consider this incredibly liberating quote from the source. What if your mind just works different? Notice the phrasing there. It doesn't say better, it doesn't say worse, it just says different. Think about it like a sports car. A high-performance engine operates completely differently than a standard commuter car. An engine built for high-speed analysis is absolutely going to rattle and stall if you force it to drive at 10 miles an hour through mundane everyday traffic.
Recognizing that your mind simply works differently is the very first step toward letting go of the guilt of not fitting into the standard mold.
So here is the ultimate reframe. You are not broken. Think about how much energy you waste trying to fix yourself so you can process information the way everyone else seems to. When you actually stop fighting your own architecture, when you stop trying to numb the metacognition or force yourself to enjoy superficial stuff, a massive amount of mental energy is freed up. The source material is super direct about this, and I want it to really sink in. You are not a broken version of a normal mind.
You're just deeper. You're operating on a deeper psychological architecture. Every single trait we've covered, the word-for-word recall, thinking about thinking, the weird pattern recognition, the craving for deep connection, it all serves a singular purpose. It allows you to perceive the world beneath the surface layer. You get to understand the subtext, the hidden mechanics, and the profound truths that most people just walk right past. Being deeper means you experience life with a much higher resolution. Sure, the complexities are more complex, but that depth is exactly where true innovation and real understanding come from, and that means it's time to actually build a daily routine that supports this.
If you want to explore the full list of traits, check out the source material in the bio. But based on what we've unpacked in this explainer, let's create a quick daily checklist for someone with a deeper mind. Number 1, schedule dedicated quiet time to just let that metacognition run its course without judgment. Number 2, trust your weird pattern recognition at work and let it actually guide your creativity. And number 3, fiercely protect your social energy by prioritizing those deep connections over draining small talk. So, I'll leave you with this. If your mind truly is built like this, what could you actually accomplish the moment you stop apologizing for it and start utilizing it? Something to think about. Catch you next time.